Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Back on the program joining us is world-renowned intuitive and mystic healer Sonja Grace. We're going to look forward to 2015 and find out what's in store for us. We'll find out about her vision of big changes to our climactic, political, and social and economic conditions. I'd like to welcome back to the Beyond 50 radio program today our special guest, Sonja Grace. Sonja, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Well, after being in the centerfold of National Enquirer with some big heavy hitters there telling the world what's going on, and now you're on the program to share some more ideas about what that's all about. Tell us about it.
Well, it was a real honor to be in the National Enquirer, and I think that this next year overall has a very good feeling. I think that, we're in the middle of a lot of disruption, a lot of feelings of, change, disruption. People are noticing a lot more things. They're aware of a lot more things than what we have been in the past. The truth of a lot of different situations is becoming available for people to understand and see what's going on, and hallelujah for that. But hold on to your hats, because some of the truths that will be revealed as we have watched over the last couple of years is going to be hard. It's going to be hard for people, and there's going to be people who are so locked into their belief systems that they are not going to be able to handle it. And the same applies for the energy that is now here on Earth, the energy that is a part of, this transformation that I'm always talking about. We either get on board and handle it or we don't, and a lot of people will not handle it. And we're watching this. There's lots of people who are leaving the planet, tons of cancer. Oh my God, the cancer rate is just going up like crazy. And it will continue to be on the rise. But I don't see this as, focused in on one thing, like this is a big giant conspiracy and they're trying to kill us off. I think that we're killing ourselves off. I think that humanity is so polarized in either being the victim or the perpetrator, that we have set this up for centuries, over and over and over again. Oh my God, the Romans are coming. We're the victims because we're running and we're not Roman. We're setting this up constantly, and we just watched it totally get set up with the whole thing that happened in France. And gosh, it is something that our society, as humanity as a whole, cannot seem to break free of, and that is playing out those two roles. We're either the victim or the perpetrator. So I see this changing over this next year. I see 2015 being a bit of a, kind of an enlightenment of issues for people. The economy looks great. I don't see anything but the normal dips and dives in the economy. And I feel that with those financial highs and lows, we're going to really start to maintain more of a balance. And that goes for the whole world, the world economy.
So do you feel that the future, when it comes to the health for humans, is going to be iffy, or what do we see there?
Absolutely. I think it's very iffy, because what I'm getting as far as, like when I ask my guides what's the big message for 2015, this race for oil, the race for having power, who's got the most oil, who's in charge of this market, that market, it's going to switch. It's not going to be about oil. It's going to switch to water. And that's where it's going to get very dicey for people, because there are places in the world where people are dependent upon water sources that are completely polluted. And if you want to look at who owns the big land chunks that have the big, pure water aquifers underneath them, it's China.
Mm-hmm.
And so we may see a shift in all kinds of things because of what's going on with water, a lack of water, a lack of clean water. They just found 100 bodies floating down the Ganges River in India the other day. And this is one of the most used rivers, and I mean, it's huge.
Right.
And people bathe in it, and it's crazy when I think about the the pollution in our water and how that's going to really rush to the forefront as we have more drought. And oddly enough, as we have more drought, we have rising waters. We've got, coastlines that are really going to be affected. And I see this year, 2015, being very much the start of that, where we're going to see some coastlines, especially on the East Coast, really affected by the rising waters. I also see a pretty big cataclysmic storm happening on the East Coast in August that could do some major damage. The other particular storm that came up is in the Midwest, kind of a superstorm that I saw as far as a tornado, and we keep seeing extreme weather, but it's going to keep getting more extreme, and we're going to have to come to terms with this, because even though the various state, region, whatever it has a state of emergency, and there's funds available, the government jumps in, everybody helps. This could become such a trend that we have to refigure what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you mentioned China, we also have on the horizon Russia and Korea. Tell us about those relationships and what we can anticipate with these three countries.
Well, I see a bit of a setup, particularly with North Korea, to have a some kind of war, and it's all in effort of basically manipulating much greater power. I think that China is going to keep a very even keel with us. I don't think that there is a problem really between us and China. I think that Russia is playing their own game and wanting to manipulate as well. And in some respects, and this is again my perspective, but standing there with their hands on their hips saying, well, we're just as powerful as the United States. I don't see what the problem is.
Right.
So yeah, I think that there's going to be some interesting things, but the big focal point from what I'm seeing is North Korea.
Now, what about North Korea should we be aware of?
The guides are saying that there is a secrecy about North Korea and what they're doing, what they've actually developed, what they're doing, what kind of technology they really have, that is not on our radar, and that's where I think we need to really, step up every possible way we can to be fully aware of what's going on and what potentially could come at us. I thought it was interesting that this morning in the news they announced cyber wars between the United States and England as a test to gain some ability to fight that way, and I think we're really headed for that. But not necessarily good news for the people, because all of us who are on the internet and do our banking and our emails and everything, I think we might find not that anything gets compromised, but that it becomes more and more, in a way, limited as to what kind of security system you have in place to protect you. And it's the very security system that then limits you from what you have access to.
The very thing protecting you is the very thing keeping you away from the thing you need protected, in other words.
That's right.
Wow. You just wonder, when are these boys going to start playing nicely, don't you?
Right. Right, and it's all about power, and it's all about, the desire to be in control. And as I said, as long as these two main roles that we've prescribed to for centuries, either someone's the victim or someone's the perpetrator, as long as we keep playing out in those types of roles, we're going to perpetuate this very thing that we're talking about. It will continue.
Now, you were mentioning earlier in the program about superstorms, and I remember when you were on the program back in 2011, and I know that's going 4 years back, but you were talking about a mini ice age that was coming upon us, and it's fascinating to see how, especially in the Midwest and the East Coast, that was completely true, as far as the extreme icy weather patterns are concerned. How do you see that playing out?
Oh, I think it's still, it's still developing. I think that it's still very well on its way. I mean, the fact that, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, the entire United States was in a deep freeze. I mean, there was not even one part of it that wasn't experiencing low temperatures. And we're going to keep seeing this trend. An ice age doesn't come, like bam, overnight. It's gradual. And I think that we keep cooling down, even though temperatures overall were higher last year. In the big scope of looking at temperatures around the world, we actually there were cooler temperatures overall. So I think that we are on an actual, as we warm, we are cooling, and that's the same with the oceans. As the oceans warm, it's because an ice age or a cooling trend is coming. So I see that still upon us. I see it developing, again over the next couple of years, and I see us pretty much in this ice age. You could technically say it's upon us, but we're moving into it over the next, decade.
Now, one of the big news stories of last year, which has me still scratching my head because of the alarm they seem to be surrounding this with, and that's that of Ebola. Now, back in the 1980s is when this disease, or whatever you want to call it, was there, and it just seemed to fade and disappear. Now they're bringing this back, and I'm thinking, what's going on with this kind of nonsense here?
Well, I actually, in the National Enquirer, they did print my prediction that there would be a cure for Ebola, and I see that being developed. I see scientists working very hard on having a cure for this, and I believe that we will be completely Ebola-free by 2016.
Wow.
I think this is the year, as I said just a little bit ago, this is the year for, I'm going to use this term very loosely, for some enlightenment on things. There's going to be some enlightenment with scientists and with disease and with where we're going with this planet. And I feel that even though we can stand back and say, well, this group needs to do this, and this country needs to cut emissions, and these people need to do this, it really boils down to, what is this planet doing? Because we all sit around thinking we're so powerful and we can do all of these things, or we're not powerful and they're doing it to us. But ultimately, I'm telling you, the planet has the power. She has the power. And anybody who has survived a hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake, a massive earthquake, their lives are changed forever, because they've experienced a power that is far greater than any government or any group of people. The earth really has the power, and she's very powerful. And I think that we're going to see some earth changes this year that are tremendous. The superstorm that I see hitting the Midwest. I see some tornadoes coming that are tornado sizes we have not experienced.
Oh boy.
Yeah, really, really major. And I see the Midwest, the Southwest and the Midwest really suffering from wind. There's going to be a lot of wind this year that crops are not going to do very well. I believe that in 2015 the trend where we're headed, and it probably won't be till the end of 2015, because people are going to have to experience, this higher price of food because it didn't grow because there was too much wind, is people are going to start growing, hydroponics. They're going to start growing tower gardens on their decks and their porches, and really creating and growing food in a whole different way.
Well, that's very encouraging, to say the least. And I know that recently we're beginning to see these lows in oil prices. Do you have any thoughts or insights on that?
Well, I mean, I love it.
I know I was even listening to the news and realizing that people are going back to buying the large, stupid, gas-guzzling vehicles, and I'm thinking, are you people out of your mind?
Right. Well, I think that this trend is going to continue, and the guides are saying that we will see this all the way through most of the year. Come November, there may be a little a spike up in price, but I think that we'll see this maintain for the most part for the year. And again, I'm going to bring back the other important piece to this, and that is that water it's going to take the forefront. Mm-hmm. It's going to take the forefront. When some of these cities like Las Vegas cannot get enough water to run, it's going to get everybody's attention.
Now, there was something that you brought up 2 years ago that I found interesting, because you don't hear a lot about this, and that's the upcoming testing of the Hadron Collider. Tell us about that and why that's important to keep an eye on.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because they are going to reopen it. They've done a bunch of work on it. They're going to do more testing now here in 2015. And to me, it's very scary. It's a very scary thing that they're doing involving the Earth, because it's deep underground. I don't know how many miles the actual test site is. I think it's 14 miles. But it's scary, because they're running such a high volume of energy underneath the Earth that many scientists in the world believe that ultimately this could turn the Earth into a black hole. That's how dangerous this is. And the fact that they're going to start retesting again this year, I feel is really it's a gamble with humanity. It's a gamble with this planet. I take it very seriously, and I feel that people should be aware. And the sad thing about all of us here on Earth is we don't get a say. This is on the border of Switzerland. We don't get a say in this. Nobody gets a say in it, let alone not many people know exactly what they're doing. You have to be, some kind of astrophysicist to understand even what it is they're trying to accomplish. But it's, there's a lot of things we can go back in history and say, oh yeah, scientists said that was safe. I mean, look at GMOs.
Right.
Scientists said that was safe. That'll be fine. It won't cause any problems. And somebody's really, just excited and overzealous and, says, yeah, we got to discover what the God particle is. Let's do it. But let's do it and run the risk of what's happening here on Earth. And there are sinkholes happening all over the planet. And, does anybody ever, draw a thread through that and go, wow, why are these sinkholes opening up? One in Thailand, one in the United States, one up in Canada, all over. And I feel it's because of what's going on, this test site with the Hadron Collider.
Wow, amazing stuff. Now, how about the presidential run in 2016? What do you see there?
I see Hillary Clinton running and actually winning.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
First female president.
Yep.
Well, that's more encouraging than Kim Kardashian, that's for sure.
Right. Right.
Although if she was to win, it wouldn't be surprising considering how America seems to be at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that Hillary is going to. I think she's going to really move things in this country in a way that that we've all been waiting for. And I don't say that against anything against Obama. I think Obama's done a job that has been very difficult because he's had so many different people tie his hands up and say, okay, now do it.
Right, exactly.
Now do it. Here, you're Houdini. Get out of this one, So I think he's really, he's had a Mount Everest in front of him to climb. the thing about Hillary that's great, and that the reason the guides are saying that she will succeed, is because she's been in the White House. She knows the ropes, and she's really got the whole system down in a way that a lot of people who step into that position don't.
Right. Now, it sounds like a lot of the things we've been talking about are kind of on the harsh side of things, but what about the reality of something more uplifting? How do you see this year?
Oh, I see this year as being fantastic. I think it's going to be really good for people in terms of, again, having sort of that light shined in on, health matters, and people really learning more about how to heal themselves and how to take better care of themselves, how to grow a tower garden on your porch and eat organic, and just overall better health in amidst what I said earlier, which is, yes, there's more cancer, yes, there's more illness, but this is the changing of the guards. This is where humanity steps forward, and not one state, but all states in the United States ban the use of GMOs. It's like people are going to have to become proactive in their health and well-being. We have this belief system, this sort of pattern that we've run, that if we go to a doctor, the doctor will fix everything. And yet, really, for the doctor, they might know more of what's going on with your symptom, but it's a crapshoot for them, too, because, it could be this, but then it could be this. So now we're going to have to send you to a specialist and let them figure out, is it this or is it this? And so it goes on and on and on. And this is a time, 2015, for people to start taking more responsibility for themselves, for their health, for their lives. And the people who choose not to, the people who want to remain victims and say, no, I'm really comfortable being in the dark. I don't want to know this stuff. I really don't want to know that there's UFOs and there's aliens. That's just too much information. Those people will choose, inadvertently, probably to eventually leave the planet, maybe sooner than later, because their time has come to an end. It's like we all have different cycles and different things that we have to do here on Earth. But part of 2015 is a deeper truth coming to the forefront. And this is going to be a hard pill to swallow for some people, and for other people they're going to be cheering and going, yay, finally validation for all the things that I've been feeling.
Well, that's definitely encouraging, especially when it comes to people taking responsibility personally for all matters in their life. It's easy to stand there and point a finger and say, well, this is what's wrong with the country. It's because of these people over here. But, as we've talked about constantly on the program here, the biggest way that you can vote is you vote with your wallets. And, when you talked about GMOs earlier, in Europe, for instance, they've banned all use of GMOs. And here in the United States, we're puddling around with the idea of, well, we're trying to at least get them to label on packages what is GMO and what isn't. It's like, no, do you understand? No GMOs. There's a difference there. Right.
And I do see that happening. I see it being voted on again, but, from what I'm getting, and I hope it's sooner than this, I'm really hearing that it's not going to be fully recognized and banned until, several years down the road.
Wow.
Yeah, the United States is really going to drag their heels on this because there's way too much money tied up in, those companies that are producing this. And it's unfortunate because it usually takes cataclysmic events for people to recognize how far off track they've become. One of my favorite stories when the financial market crashed years ago is the head of some bank, who lost his job, was living in Florida, and the only job he could get was delivering pizzas. And I just thought, that's beautiful, because what that guy learned is that it doesn't matter what the job is, it doesn't matter what the income is. What matters is, what you're doing to make a difference in the world, what your energy is. What are you giving to humanity and to this earth? What are you giving with your energy? And apparently from the interviews he did, it was very powerful. It was a really powerful lesson for him. Another woman who was a client of mine, she lost her job. She was also in banking, and she started a community garden and was so happy. So happy. All these people were a part of the community garden, and she was heading it up. And this is the things that I hope people can realize before a cataclysmic event.
No doubt about that. Such a wonderful time to have you here on the program and share with us. It's going to be kind of crazy, but at the same time, it all sounds good as well. What is a website people can go and find out more about you and your work?
It's Sonja, Sonja, Grace, GRACE.com. You can find me on Twitter at Sonja Grace Guide. You can find me on Twitter at Spirit Traveler. You can find me on Facebook, Mystic Healer Sonja Grace. You can find me all over the place.
She's everywhere you need to be. So
That's
be
right.
sure that you're there with a squared away head and ready to go and see what you can do in this world to make the world a better place, especially in 2015. Sonja, thank you so much for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you for having me, Dan. It's great to be here and talk to you. Thanks.
You bet. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. Remember, you can make your future as bright or as dim as you choose to. All you got to do is make a choice. So be sure the choice that you make is one of responsibility and definitely of compassion for others. Be sure to choose to visit us at our website at Beyond50Radio.com. That is the number 50, and become a Beyond 50 e-newsletter subscriber. It's absolutely free. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.